the global majority is with us. Hafsa mentioned Chile, and this is a perfect cue for our next speaker, Maria. When the Sheffield Coalition Against Israeli Apartheid was formed, the very first group that jumped up to say, we support this initiative, was the Chile Solidarity movement. And it's a great pleasure now to welcome Maria, and she will just have some words about her view of what solidarity is based on her knowledge from Chile.
Thank you. When in January the ICJ gave their interim ruling to say that there was a plausible chance that Israel is committing genocide in Palestine, the German government stated that they firmly and explicitly reject accusation of genocide. The next day, the Namibian government responded to Germany and reminded them that the first genocide of the 20th century was in 1904 by Germany against tens and thousands of Namibians who were left to die in brutal and terrible conditions. The president of Namibia went on to say, "There is no peace-loving human being that can ignore the carnage that's being waged against Palestine." I wanted to share this with you because these are the same governments now, today, that are questioning our humanity. These are the governments, like the United States and Rishi Sunak for Britain, that are accusing us of being extremists. These very countries who have got a long history of colonisation, of apartheid, of racism. They've got a long history of stealing people's lands, of plundering their natural resources, of robbing them, of murdering them, of committing genocide, destroying their environment in the millions across the world. And then if that is not enough, in the 20th century, these are the very governments that have backed the brutal regimes, such as mine in Chile, to oppose any kind of democratic government that dares to stand up against the West. These are the very governments that are arming Israel and militarily and politically supporting the genocide that we're seeing today. So it's no coincidence that it's today the global south that is standing up against what's happening in Israel. It's no coincidence that it's South Africa that took the court case to the ICJ. It is no coincidence that the states that represent 60% of the global south population, of the world's population, are in the global south, are either directly or indirectly backing the legal case against Israel. From Latin America to Africa to all the corners of Asia, the global south, which I like to call the global majority, is standing up against what is happening in Palestine. Today in Chile, we have marches all across the major towns and cities at the same time to stand up for Palestine. So when Rishi Sunak and the other great Western leaders accuse us of extremism, accuse us of dividing the countries, we like to remind them of the double standards that we know too well in the global majority, because we've paid for those double standards with our own blood. So I say to Rishi Sunak and Biden and Germany and France and any other Western country that stands along Israel, you can keep your Western values, as we know them in this country, British values of colonisation, of racism, of rape, of pillage, of imperialism, of devastation of the environment, of the exhaustion of natural resources, of extractivism, of state terror, mass terror and state repression against anyone that stands up against. You can keep those values because we stand together with the values of humanity. We stand together with the values of the global majority. And those human values, compañeras and compañeras, are values of equality, are values of justice, are values of peace, are values of humanity. They're values of solidarity, they're values of resistance, they're values of freedom, and they're values of love. Viva Palestina!